The idea of three ways. God introduces you to your soulmate without you realizing, as referenced in the YouTube video titled Carl Jung, 3 Ways God Introduces You to Your Soulmate. Without you realizing. Spiritual motivation. Carl Jung philosophy, published May 13, 2025, reflects a contemporary adaptation of Carl Gustav Jung's psychological and spiritual insights. Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist and the founder of analytical psychology, did not explicitly address the modern notion of soulmates or a personal God orchestrating romantic encounters. Instead, his work explored the psyche's depths, the collective unconscious, and the spiritual dimensions of human experience, offering concepts like synchronicity, archetypes, and individuation that can be applied to interpret profound human connections. The video's framing likely blends Jung's ideas with modern spiritual and romantic ideals, presenting a popularized interpretation of how divine forces might guide soulmate encounters. Without direct access to the video's content or transcript, this response constructs a detailed framework based on Jung's philosophy, imagining how synchronicity, archetypal resonance, and individuation might represent 3 ways the divine, understood in Jung's terms as the archetype of the self, or the psyche's deeper intelligence, introduces a soulmate in subtle, unconscious ways. Each section below expands on these concepts, weaving in Jung's theories, historical context, and illustrative examples to provide a comprehensive exploration of how such encounters might align with his thought. 1. Synchronicity, meaningful coincidences guiding connection. Carl Jung's concept of synchronicity, which he defined as the occurrence of 2 or more events that are meaningfully related but not causally connected, offers a profound lens through which to understand how a soulmate might enter one's life in a way that feels orchestrated by a divine force. Introduced in his 1952 work, Synchronicity, and a causal connecting principle, synchronicity challenges the mechanistic worldview of cause and effect, proposing instead that certain events are linked by meaning, orchestrated by the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of archetypes and universal patterns that transcends individual experience. When applied to the idea of meeting a soulmate, synchronicity suggests that seemingly random encounters, such as meeting someone at an unexpected moment, in an unlikely setting, or through a chain of improbable coincidences, are guided by a deeper, cosmic order. These moments, Jung argued, carry a numinous quality, a sense of awe or divine presence that hints at a greater intelligence at work. Aligning with the query's framing of God, introducing a soulmate without conscious realization. To illustrate, consider a scenario where 2 individuals meet by chance at a train station, both delayed by an unusual sequence of events. A cancelled flight, a missed connection, or a sudden impulse to travel. They strike up a conversation, discovering shared interests or experiences that feel eerily significant, such as having read the same obscure book or having dreamt of a similar symbol the night before. Over time, they realize their paths have crossed before in subtle ways. Perhaps they attended the same event years ago or share a mutual acquaintance they never knew about. Jung would interpret such coincidences as synchronistic, reflecting the psyche's alignment with a universal pattern. The without you realizing aspect is key. At the moment of meeting, the individuals might not grasp the encounter's significance, dismissing it as ordinary. Only later, as patterns emerge or the relationship deepens, does the divine orchestration become apparent, as if the universe conspired to bring them together. Jung's fascination with synchronicity stemmed from his observations of patients and his own experiences, as well as his collaboration with physicist Wolfgang Pauli. He noted that synchronistic events often occur during times of psychological transition, moments of crisis, transformation, or heightened emotional intensity. In the context of a soulmate, such events might coincide with a period of personal searching or inner turmoil, where the psyche is primed for a meaningful connection. For example, someone grappling with questions of purpose might encounter a person who, through conversation or shared experiences, illuminates a new perspective, as if the meeting were timed to address their inner needs. Jung might argue that this is the work of the self, the archetype of wholeness, which orchestrates events to guide individuals toward integration. The divine, in Jung's view, is not a personal deity, but an inner force, expressed through symbols and experiences that transcend rational explanation. This perspective resonates with Jung's interest in Eastern philosophies, particularly Taoism, which emphasizes the flow of life's events as part of a cosmic harmony. A soulmate encounter via synchronicity might feel like a moment of alignment with this harmony, where the universe aligns circumstances to foster a connection with profound implications. For instance, two people might meet at a lecture on a topic neither typically explores, only to discover they share a deep passion for it, sparking a relationship that feels fated. Jung's case studies, such as his famous example of the scarab beetle appearing during a patient's session, illustrate how synchronicity bridges the inner and outer worlds. In the scarab case, a patient described a dream about a beetle just as one appeared at the window, marking a breakthrough in her therapy. Similarly, a soulmate encounter might involve a shared symbol, a song, a place, or an image that carries deep meaning for both individuals, reinforcing the sense of divine guidance. The unconscious nature of synchronicity aligns with the query's emphasis on meeting a soulmate without realizing. Jung believed the conscious ego often lags behind the unconscious, which perceives connections and meanings before they become clear. A soulmate introduced through synchronicity might initially seem like a casual acquaintance, but as further coincidences unfold, shared dreams, parallel life events, or unexpected reunions, the relationship's significance emerges. This process reflects Jung's view of the psyche as a self-regulating system, guided by the divine archetype of the self, which seeks to bring balance and meaning to life. Whether through a single striking encounter or a series of subtle connections, synchronicity suggests that soulmate meetings are not random but part of a larger pattern, orchestrated by the psyche's deeper intelligence in a way that feels both mysterious and divine. 2. Archetypal resonance, soul recognition. Through the anima, arca, animus, Jung's theory of the anima and animus, the contrasexual archetypes representing the feminine aspect of a man's psyche and the masculine aspect of a woman's psyche, provides a second way the divine might introduce a soulmate without conscious awareness. These archetypes, explored in works like Ion and the Archetypes and the collective unconscious, serve as bridges between the conscious ego and the unconscious, guiding individuals toward wholeness by integrating hidden aspects of the self. A soulmate might be someone who embodies or activates these inner archetypes, creating a profound sense of recognition or attraction that feels divinely orchestrated. This phenomenon, often described as soul recognition, aligns with the idea of God introducing a soulmate, as the encounter stirs the unconscious in ways that transcend rational understanding, evoking a sense of destiny or spiritual connection. The anima, for a man, is the personification of his unconscious feminine qualities: intuition, emotion, creativity, or sensitivity. The animus, for a woman, embodies her unconscious masculine traits: logic, assertiveness, or courage. Jung believed these archetypes project onto others, especially in romantic relationships, creating powerful attractions that feel fated. For example, a man might meet a woman who embodies his anima. Perhaps her nurturing nature or enigmatic presence resonates with an inner image he's carried unconsciously. This encounter might feel like a divine introduction, as the woman seems to complete or mirror a part of him he didn't fully know existed. Similarly, a woman might encounter a man who reflects her animus, perhaps through his intellectual depth or quiet strength, sparking an immediate connection that feels both familiar and otherworldly. This resonance is often unconscious at first, aligning with the without you realizing aspect of the query. The initial attraction might be mistaken for mere chemistry, but Jung would argue it's a projection of the anima, animus, orchestrated by the psyche to foster growth. For instance, a woman struggling to assert herself might meet a man whose confidence mirrors her latent animus, prompting her to develop that quality within herself. The encounter feels divine because it transcends ordinary attraction, stirring the psyche in ways that point toward transformation. Jung noted that such projections are temporary. As the relationship evolves, individuals must withdraw the projection and integrate the qualities they've seen in the other. A soulmate, in this sense, is not just a romantic partner, but a catalyst for self-discovery, introduced by the divine intelligence of the psyche. Jung's alchemical studies provide further context, as he drew parallels between psychological integration and the alchemical conjunctio, the symbolic marriage of masculine and feminine. A soulmate relationship might reflect this union, where two individuals mirror each other's opposites, fostering a synthesis that leads to wholeness. For example, a man dominated by logic might meet a woman whose emotional depth challenges him to embrace his anima, while she, in turn, learns to integrate her animus through his influence. This mutual transformation feels like a divine orchestration because it aligns with the archetype of the self, which Jung saw as the divine within, guiding the psyche toward unity. The spiritual dimension of this process lies in Jung's view of the divine as an inner force, expressed through archetypes that connect individuals to the collective unconscious. A soulmate encounter via anima-animus resonance might involve shared symbols. Perhaps both individuals are drawn to the same myth, artwork, or dream image that amplify the sense of divine guidance. For instance, a couple might discover they've both been fascinated by the myth of Eros and Psyche, reflecting their unconscious recognition of each other as soulmates. Jung's case studies, such as his analysis of patients' dreams, often revealed how the anima-animus appeared as figures guiding the dreamer towards significant relationships or insights. A soulmate introduced through this archetype might feel like a gift from the divine, not because of a literal deity, but because the encounter aligns with the psyche's quest for integration, orchestrated in a way that feels both profound and mysterious. Third, individuation, the divine path to self-realization. Through relationships, Jung's concept of individuation, the lifelong process of integrating the conscious and unconscious to become one's true self, offers a third way the divine might introduce a soulmate without immediate awareness. Described in works like Psychological Types and the Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche, individuation involves reconciling opposites within the psyche, conscious and unconscious, masculine and feminine, light and shadow, to achieve wholeness. A soulmate in this context is not merely a romantic partner, but a significant other who serves as a mirror, revealing hidden aspects of the self and catalyzing psychological and spiritual growth. This encounter, orchestrated by the deeper intelligence of the psyche, might feel like a divine intervention because it challenges individuals to confront their inner conflicts and evolve, often in ways they don't initially recognize. Individuation is a dynamic process, unique to each person, where relationships play a crucial role. A soulmate might enter one's life during a period of inner turmoil or transition, acting as a catalyst for self-discovery. For example, someone struggling with self-doubt might meet a partner whose confidence highlights their own latent strengths, prompting them to confront their shadow, the repressed or unacknowledged parts of the psyche. At first, this might manifest as conflict or discomfort. The soulmate's presence might trigger insecurities or challenge long-held beliefs. Jung would argue that such relationships are divinely guided, not for comfort, but for transformation, as they push individuals toward integrating their unconscious aspects. The without you realizing element lies in the gradual unfolding of the relationship's purpose, which becomes clear only as one reflects on the growth it has spurred. Jung saw the divine as the archetype of the self, a symbol of wholeness that guides individuation through dreams, symbols, and relationships. A soulmate encounter might feel like a divine introduction because it aligns with this inner guidance, bringing two people together to mirror each other's strengths and weaknesses. For instance, a person who avoids vulnerability might meet someone who encourages emotional openness, forcing a confrontation with their shadow. This process can be painful, but ultimately transformative, as it aligns with Jung's belief that the divine works through life's challenges to foster growth. In his writings, Jung often described relationships as alchemical vessels, where the interplay of opposites between partners and within each individual leads to a higher state of consciousness. The spiritual significance of individuation lies in its connection to the collective unconscious, where universal archetypes shape human experience. A soulmate relationship might involve shared archetypes. Perhaps both partners are drawn to the same spiritual or cultural symbols, like the mandala, which Jung saw as a representation of the self. This shared resonance amplifies the sense of divine orchestration, as the relationship feels like a sacred partnership. Jung's interest in mysticism and alchemy further informs this perspective. He viewed relationships as symbolic of the alchemical conjunction, where the union of opposites leads to spiritual awakening. A soulmate, introduced through individuation, is thus a divine gift, guiding both partners toward their true selves in ways they may not initially comprehend. Aligning with the query's theme of unconscious realization, the spiritual significance of individuation lies in its profound connection to the collective unconscious, the vast inherited reservoir of symbols, myths, and archetypes shared by all human beings. Within this deeper layer of the psyche, universal patterns shape our internal lives and external relationships. A soulmate connection can be interpreted as an encounter deeply rooted in this archetypal realm, an unfolding not merely of attraction, but of symbolic resonance and shared psychic themes. Such a relationship may be marked by an uncanny alignment of inner symbols and outer experiences. For instance, both individuals might feel drawn to similar spiritual or cultural motifs. Symbols like the Gyaka mandala, which Jung identified as an archetype of wholeness and a representation of the self, the central guiding archetype in the individuation process. When both partners are independently aligned with such imagery, their union can feel destined, even sacred, as though orchestrated by an unseen intelligence working through shared unconscious material. This convergence can evoke a powerful sense of a divine orchestration, heightening the meaning of the bond beyond the personal. Jung's fascination with mysticism, alchemy, and Eastern philosophy further informs this view. In alchemical symbolism, one of Jung's favorite lenses for psychological transformation, the nut conjunction represents the mystical union of opposites, a sacred merging that produces something entirely new. In a psychological context, this union mirrors the deepening integration of the masculine and feminine within the self, anima and animus, as well as the outer expression of this harmony through deeply transformative relationships. A soulmate, then, may act as a catalyst for this alchemical process, confronting us with while Carl Jung did not explicitly address the concept of soulmates or the idea of a personal God deliberately introducing two people, his psychological theories offer a compelling framework for understanding such experiences through a symbolic and spiritual lens. Jung's concepts of synchronicity, archetypal resonance, and individuation provide a powerful vocabulary for interpreting why certain connections feel profoundly significant, almost as if orchestrated by a higher intelligence. In the context of a modern romantic narrative, such as that often presented in YouTube videos, Jung's ideas are frequently reinterpreted to emphasize emotional and spiritual meaning rather than strict analytical theory. These interpretations may highlight the feeling that the universe brought us together, framing romantic connection as something beyond chance, grounded instead in meaningful coincidence and psychic alignment. Synchronicity, a central Jungian concept, refers to the occurrence of meaningful coincidences that cannot be explained by cause and effect, but feel deeply significant to the individual experiencing them. Meeting someone under unlikely circumstances, or repeatedly encountering symbols, dreams, or moments that draw you toward them can be seen as synchronistic events, signposts from the unconscious guiding you toward connection. Jung's idea of the anima and animus, inner images of the opposite gender residing in the unconscious, further supports the soulmate motif. These archetypal figures influence our romantic attractions and projections. When we meet someone who embodies the traits of our inner anima or animus, it may spark a profound sense of recognition, intimacy, or destiny. This resonance can be mistaken for fate or divine intervention, but from a Jungian view, it's the psyche seeking wholeness through external relationships. Finally, the process of individuation, or becoming one's true self by integrating the unconscious with the conscious mind, often involves encounters with transformative relationships. A soulmate in this context may be someone whose presence accelerates psychological growth, challenges existing patterns, or helps uncover hidden aspects of the self. These relationships might not always be easy or permanent, but they carry a depth that feels meaningful beyond rational explanation. Through this lens, the divine may not refer to an external deity, but to the deep intelligence of the psyche itself. The self, which orchestrates encounters and events that lead to personal and relational transformation. The sense of meeting a soulmate, without realizing it, at first aligns perfectly with how the unconscious often works. Subtly, symbolically, and through experience rather than logic. If you're interested, we could explore specific Jungian texts, real-life case studies, or how these ideas relate to other spiritual or psychological traditions. Let me know what direction you'd like to go next.